Chelsea here. Today we're gonna make a purse like this one. I seem to have some interest on Facebook and stuff with all my craft things I've been sewing and doing. So I'm gonna try making kind of an instructable video on how to do this. I've never made or edited videos before. I am sitting in my kitchen with my iPhone propped up on my iron, and I'm like talking to the wall, so I feel like a total dork right now. Anyway, the supplies we're going to need, a doily, obviously there's one here on the front. We're going to use this blue and white material, and then I'm excited about this pink and white material because this bag, I'm so excited, is super special. It's going to a girl in Washington, the state of Washington, and I'm trading for some jams and jellies and stuff. So this kind of goes back to like when I was younger. I always wish I had like a pen pal. I thought that would be like really cool. So we're gonna send each other something, so it'll be like a neat, exciting experience. So stay with me, be patient. We'll get through this together, and hopefully by the end we'll have a really cute purse made. So the first thing that we're going to do, I'm just going to show you here on this one. If you look, this bag is actually a square shape, or rectangle, I guess, rectangle shape. So what we need to do is cut out the rectangles for the front and the rectangles for the back in both materials. What I'm hoping to do with this bag is that when we're done, it could be, it'll have this lining inside, in here. So like when you turn it out, you're kind of making two of the same square bags. So what you need to do is decide what size you want your bag to be, and then cut out rectangles. It'll be 4 rectangles total, but 2 of each material. And I am going to do that now. You don't have to watch me, play with scissors. That's really boring. Okay, now that we've cut out all of our rectangles, I'm going to show you on this pink material how to make the body of the bag. And then you're going to do the same thing on, exactly the same thing on your other material, and this is what you're going to wind up with. The one thing I forgot to tell you is you're going to cut out the 2 rectangles, but then you also need to cut out a strip of fabric, and this is going to make the sides and the depth of your bag, as you can see here. And just decide how deep you want your bag, and then cut your strips out about that width. Mine's like only a couple inches here. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your strip of fabric and pick one of your squares with the right sides facing together on one of the long edges. So this here, up here, in my right hand is going to be the top of the bag. So we're going to take some pins. We're going to take some pins, and we're going to pin this fabric down just so it doesn't move while we sew. Alright, and now that we've got that pin, we're going to run a straight stitch down this edge to the bottom of this rectangle here. And when you run that straight stitch, don't run it right up against this edge. I want you to do it a little bit over, because we're going to do an over stitch with that seam. And if that doesn't make sense, I'll show you in just a minute. So let's take our machine and go ahead and run this straight stitch down the side here. All right. What you want to do, straight stitch a few stitches, back stitch a couple. This is going to keep your stitch from falling out or anything goofy. Okay, now that we're at the end of our rectangle material, we're going to back stitch a few. That way the stitching doesn't fall out. And cut that right off. Okay, now take our pins out here. Okay. Remember how I told you we were going to do something with that seam? I'm going to lay this flat so you can see this is our seam sticking up here. And what we're going to do is push it over towards the body of our bag. And then we're going to do an overstitch along there. And what that's going to do is it's just going to put a really cute little extra detail of a stitch there, but also it's going to strengthen the seam. Open up your material, make sure that seam is pointed this direction, and then you really want to make this stitch straight because it's going to be visible. Unless you use like a matchy thread that you can't really see, then you don't have to worry about it. So I'm just going to sew a stitch down the seam, back stitching just as I did before. Okay, so I don't know if you can see in the camera from this far away, but we have a little stitch there. Cut off the extra thread at the end so it's not getting caught. Okay, now to make the corner of your back, what you're going to want to do is continuing with folding towards the right side of your fabric. Fold this in this way, and you want to make sure your corner here, like, okay. So we're going to go this way with it, and we're going to pin it down. We have that pinned. Don't worry that that looks like that. It'll make a corner like that when we're done. So we're just going to stitch it right down through there just like we did before. Alright, and we have, ta-da, a corner. Isn't that so neat how that turned out? Okay, so I'm a dork. Push this over again towards the middle of your bag and then run another stitch down so that it matches. And we just do the same thing on this corner as we did on the other one. And this is the last side that we have to sew up. So we're just going to pin it again. And stitch it right up. Pins out. Okay. And this turned out to be a little bit longer than what I needed because I didn't actually measure the distance around the bag or anything. I just cut out a strip that I thought would be long enough. Oops. I keep getting distracted here. So I'm just going to cut this off so that it's the same length. No big deal. It's only a problem if it turns out too short. I'm going to overstitch this last side. I'm going to take this piece and right? Wait a minute. Here we go. So we want this, oh, my machine. Sometimes it does this thing. Now if any of you know what's going on with my machine, it likes to like wad the thread up and then it turns it black. It probably needs serviced, or maybe it's something to do with the tension. I don't know, but if any of you have any idea why my machine likes to eat copious amounts of thread, feel free to let me know. Okay, now pinning this on this way, we're gonna do what we did kind of on the other side. And we're going to kind of turn it so we can get this next corner. Here we go. This is where pinning your fabric definitely is going to come in handy. because it likes to move around on you. Okay, so we're just going to sew this up. Alright. Oh, and I'm not showing you the overstitching this time just because I kind of feel like by this point you get how to do it. I'll go back and do it later. But anyway, just pin this last side, sew that last stitch, overstitch all of it, just as you did on this side. And then the body of your bag, of one half of your bag will be complete. And just take it and do it with your other material, and this is what it's going to look like. Now that I have two bags sewn, they're identical, not in color, but in shape. What you're going to want to do is take your iron and you're going to fold over the top just a little bit all the way around. So, just so they're equal on each bag, and you're going to want to iron them. Either one, so fold it all the way around and iron it. And then I will show you why once I get them ironed. Okay, now that we have our around the top ironed in, we're going to make the flap. And I went ahead and made these. How I made these was I did a little bit more than the width of the edges of our bag because we're going to need a seam allowance. And I just found a bowl that was about the right size, and I made a cardboard cutout out of an old pizza box here. And really though, you could do your flap any shape. If you wanted to do it square, you could. I just like mine round because I felt like it goes really well with the round shape of the doily. The first thing you want to do is line up your doily here, like on this blue and white is going to be the outside of the body of my bag, and I decided I wanted the flap to contrast. So I'm going to sew my doily onto this piece of the flap here, so that way you won't be able to see the stitches and they'll be hidden. So centering this, and once this is on, we'll put the right sides together and sew around this edge. So make sure you take that into account when you pin on your doily, because you don't want it to be like down here and then you sew it and then it'll look weird. So you want to move it up and take into account that you're going to be adding that seam in there. So I like this alignment, so I'm just going to pin it down and then take a zigzag stitch and just go all the way around to sew the doily down. I'll show you on my other bag already done. So here's that yellow stitch all the way around. So I'm going to do that with this flap, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, now that we have our cute little doily sewn on to, I love this pink fabric, by the way, now that I have this on there. It looks so good with the blue. Anyway, so we're going to take the right sides of our little flap here and line up our semicircle here. And we're just going to stitch around that edge. So I'm going to do that real quick. Using pins to keep everything in line, of course. We're just going to turn this, well first we're going to stab you with some pins. There we go. And we're going to turn this right side out. And ta-da! We have a round flap! Yay! I would take an iron to it, just to really flatten it out, because right now it doesn't really want to lay flat. Fabric doesn't like being sewn into a circle. And then the next step is we're going to make the strap for the back. I'm going to make it out of this material here just because it's heavier and I feel like it will hold up a lot better. You make it the same width as your edges. By the time you sew your strap, your seam allowance and everything will make it the same width as your sides. This is the same width as my sides, so I'm just going to use this to figure out where I want to cut it. You know what, we're going to need 2 of these. Yeah, because how long do I need that? Yeah, that's about the right length. Look, this is how I measure stuff, okay, I guess. So we're going to cut another one, just like this. Okay, now that you've cut 2 long strips, you could cut it out of the pink, well, you could cut out of either fabric. You might not have pink and blue fabric, but whatever fabric you want to cut your strap out of. I just chose this fabric because it's thicker and a little bit tougher. If you wanted, you could even do like one side one color and the other side, like the other one the other, but it doesn't matter. You're going to take the right sides, put them together, and you're just going to run a stitch down either side, basically making a really long tube in which you're going to turn right side out, which sounds simple, and it is, but it takes forever to turn it right side out. I don't know why, but it's kind of hard. Anyway, it's not big enough to like get your arm all the way there and pull it through. But anyway, so I'm going to do that now. Just one seam up either side. We'll wind up with a tube, and then we'll iron it flat, and that will be our strap. Alright, so what I've done is I sewed up both sides. I turned it right side out, and then I ironed it flat. I really didn't think you guys needed to watch me while I turned this inside out and danced around my kitchen in Mayor Hawthorne, because that's totally embarrassing. Anyway, we are on the home stretch. We have all of our pieces made. So now, basically, the last step is to put it all together, and we will be like done. I am so excited. Okay, so remember how I asked you to iron this little edge down? So what you're going to do is turn one of these inside out. Sorry, I was thinking for a second. And since this is going to be my lining, you're going to push it down inside this other bag. So still leaving that little lip that you folded down. Push it all the way down into the bottom. And then I want you to line the tops up. So these seams should all get matched up all the way around. And let's see, we're going to put a few pins in it in just a second to line it all up. But you want to match the top. Okay. Now before we pin it all down, actually I'm going to go ahead and put a few pins in this. And what's going to be, I'll put the pins in what's going to be the front of our bag. So line up your edges, your seams first, because that's the most important, and that makes sure everything is in line. And then pin right down. Now this is an option. You could have your lining sticking out a little bit. I think it's cute, so I'm going to purposely have it poke out. But you can choose to set it down in there so you can't see the lining at all. It's totally up to you. And then what we're going to do is take our flap, and in the back of the bag here with the sides facing down, we're going to stick the flap just down inside, in between the 2 layers. So that way when we sew around this edge to sew the lining with the bag, we're actually going to sew this flap down in there a little bit so that there are no raw edges. And then we're also going to take our strap and yet again stick it down between the layers in here on the side, and we're going to pin it in. And what you can do, I'm going to pin this, and then I would pin one side. Whoops, we didn't have that pin one side of your strap in, and then you can go ahead and try it on and like see where you want the length and everything. I think, you know, I'm gonna have to cut off some of this edge, obviously. I'm only 5 foot tall, but I'm just assuming she's not very tall either. So I'm gonna cut it off and pin it about right there. Just go ahead and pin everything in and pin this other side down in between the layers of fabric and your flap down in there. And then I'll show you how we're going to do the seam around the edge, and we are finished. Alright, I've neatly pinned my flaps and my straps in. That sounds funny. Oh, you know what? Double check your strap to make sure that it's not twisted also before you sew it, because that would totally stink. You'd have to take a seam ripper and rip the side out and untwist it. Anyway, double check to make sure that your strap is laying flat. And then I'm just going to start here in the front. Also, to make it easier, I'm going to go ahead and pop the part of my machine off there and lay my bag underneath it. By the way. Okay. Alright, and this is the last stitch you're going to put in your bag, guys. And you want to make sure you're sewing through all the layers of your fabric, because if you miss, you have to go back. Okay. Trim off all those last few extra threads. And still attached to my machine. Alright guys, you have a finished. These little extra threads drive me nuts. I can just spend all day looking for them. Actually, I really don't want to do that. Okay. And you have a finished bag. I am so excited. This turned out incredibly cute. I cannot wait to put it in the mail. I'm so excited. Anyway, feel free to leave any comments, any questions, anything you might want to add. I think this turned out adorable, so let me know what you guys think. Oh, I want you to see the inside of this. It's so cool. It's all lined. Anyway, and if you do decide to make one, you should totally post pictures. I want to see